The winner is John Wayne in True Grit.
The man on screen, with that iconic walk and a voice as tough as leather, was a legend. We all knew John Wayne as a fearless cowboy, the brave soldier, and the American icon who never backed down. But what if I told you that the real John Wayne was even more of a master builder than any of his characters? He wasn't just building career. He was building a secret empire. An empire so massive that when he passed away, it completely changed his family's lives forever. His legacy wasn't just written in Hollywood history. It was written in bank accounts, real estate, and a fortune that would make his children and grandchildren rich beyond their wildest dreams. Get ready to have a look behind the curtain at the incredible, almost unbelievable wealth of the Duke. A quick montage of old photos. A young boy with a dog, a football player, a handsome young man in a suit host. Long before he was a Duke, he was just a kid from Iowa named Marion Robert Morrison, born in 1907. He came from a family that knew a thing or two about hard work. Life was simple, and every day was a hustle just to get by. But everything changed when his family moved to Glendale, California. That's where Marion got his famous nickname, Duke. It came from his big Airedale Terrier dog, also named Duke. People started calling the dog Big Duke and Marion Little Duke. The name stuck, and it would follow him for the rest of his life. Young Duke had a passion for football and a body built for it. He was a star on the high school team and earned a scholarship to the University of Southern California. He was on his way to becoming a famous athlete, a dream that seemed so close he could almost touch it. But fate had other plans. A terrible injury during a game shattered his football career in an instant. It was a heartbreaking moment, a huge setback that could have sent him spiraling. But Duke had a different kind of fire in him. He knew how to get back up after a fall. In 1926, an old coach helped him get a job at a movie studio. It wasn't glamorous. He was a prop boy, moving things around and doing whatever was needed behind the scenes. But it was here in the background that he started to learn the movie business. He took small parts as an extra in silent films, just a face and crowd, but it put him in front of the camera. And most importantly, it was here that he met director John Ford. Their friendship would become one of the most important relationships of his life. John Ford saw something special in Duke, a strong presence that was meant for the big screen. Their connection would pave the way for Duke's big break, a moment that would change everything. Montage of early black and white Western films, showing a younger, less polished John Wayne host. In the early days, before he was a household name, Marion Morrison went through a huge transformation. In 1930, director Raoul Walsh gave him a new name that sounded tougher and bolder, John Wayne. The studio thought Marion was too soft for a Western hero. John Wayne had a powerful ring to it, and the name fit the man they wanted him to be. That same year, he landed his first lead role in a film called The Big Trail. The movie was meant to be a huge hit, but a technical problem with the film format meant many theaters couldn't show it. The movie flopped, and John's career stalled right out of the gate. But he didn't quit. For the next several years, John Wayne worked tirelessly, appearing in dozens of low-budget westerns. These films weren't blockbusters, but they were his training ground. Film after film, he honed his craft, perfecting the brave, honest, and strong character he would become famous for. He developed his signature walk, his deliberate way of speaking, and his confident gaze. He was learning how to be a star, even when the spotlight wasn't on him yet. He also watched closely, learning the ins and outs of movie business itself, a lesson that would prove incredibly valuable later on. The struggle ended in 1939, when his old friend, director John Ford, gave him the role he had been waiting for. Ford cast him as the Ringo Kid in the movie Stagecoach. This wasn't some low-budget flick. It was a powerful, well-written film that was destined for greatness. The movie was a massive hit, and people instantly fell in love with John Wayne. He had finally made it. After years of hard work, he was a real movie star, and his career was about to explode. The tough cowboy image he had built during those struggling years was now his ticket to the top. Montage of iconic John Wayne scenes. The Searchers' Sands of Iwo Jima and him receiving his Oscar for True Grit host. The years that followed Stagecoach were what we now call John Wayne's golden age. He and John Ford worked together on many films, and each one helped him grow as an actor. He took on more serious roles, like in The Long Voyage Home, and showed that he had true depth, not just a powerful presence. In the late 1940s and through the 50s, he also started making war films. In 1949, his role in Sands of Iwo Jima earned him his first Academy Award nomination, proving he was more than just a Western star. John Wayne was a man with strong beliefs, and he used his movies to share them. He directed and starred in films like The Alamo and The Green Berets because they were stories he deeply believed in. These projects were a way for him to speak to his fans and his country, sharing his patriotism and values. But the biggest moment of his career came in 1969, when he finally won an Academy Award for his role in True Grit. He played Rooster Cogburn, a tough, one-eyed U.S. Marshal who was a little bit sloppy and a little bit tired. It was a character unlike his usual heroes, and people loved it. The award was a final proof of his talent, a hard-earned victory after decades of work. John Wayne was on top of the world. He was a superstar and making millions. But fame and money didn't protect him from making huge mistakes. He was about to learn a series of painful lessons about who to trust with his hard-earned cash. Slow, suspenseful music as the host talks about the financial troubles host. Even with millions of dollars flowing in, John Wayne twice found himself in deep financial trouble. The first time was in the 1950s when he trusted a business manager named Bo Roos. John gave Bo full control over his money, believing he was smart and trustworthy. But Bo made some terrible decisions. He convinced John to invest in a phony deal in Panama, a total scam. John lost $700,000 in that one deal, and then another $1 million in connected schemes. The money was gone. Here was one of the biggest stars in the world, and he was almost broke. Sadly, he was hit a second time when he put his trust in his oldest daughter's husband, Donald LaCava. John thought he could trust a family member to handle his money, but Donald was just as bad with finances as Bo Roos had been. John was in the dark until bills started to pile up, including a shocking one from Saks Fifth Avenue for $3,500 that hadn't been paid. For a man of his stature, it was a humiliating wake-up call. That was the breaking point. John Wayne fired everyone who had caused him problems and took control of his own finances. He started paying attention to every detail, asking questions, and reading the fine print. He focused on steady, well-paying movie roles and stayed away from risky get-rich-quick schemes. Slowly but surely, he began to rebuild his wealth. The hard lessons he learned from those two disastrous failures were the key to his future success. He became smarter, more careful, and more determined to protect his earnings, not just for himself, but for his family. These struggles, though painful, were what ultimately helped him build the lasting fortune that would live on long after he was gone. The tone shifted to a more serious, somber one. The music becomes softer and more reflective host. In 1956, John Wayne worked on a film called The Conqueror in St. George, Utah. What he and the rest of the cast and crew didn't know was that the area was contaminated by nuclear bomb tests. The wind had blown radioactive dust into the area where they were filming, and it was silently poisoning everyone. Out of 220 people who worked on that movie, 91 were later diagnosed with cancer, and 46 of them died. John Wayne was one of them. In 1964, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. He had been a heavy smoker for years, and the news was devastating. Doctors had to remove one of his lungs and several ribs. Most people thought he was finished, but he came back stronger than ever, continuing to work in movies. Years later, he was hit with another blow, stomach cancer. Even as he battled the disease, he became a public voice for cancer awareness, urging people to get checked and take care of their health. He used his personal pain to help others. His final film, released in 1976, was a powerful one called The Shootist. In it, he played a gunfighter who was dying of cancer. The role felt heartbreakingly real, and many fans saw it as his final goodbye. John Wayne died on June 11, 1979, at the age of 72. He had fought a long and private battle with the disease, but he never stopped working, never stopped inspiring. When he passed away, he left behind more than just his famous movies. He left behind a fortune that was carefully planned to protect the people he loved. The music becomes grander and more hopeful. A shot of his family, smiling and together host. When John Wayne died, his estate was worth around $7 million, which is close to $25 million in today's money. He owned homes, land, and many other valuable assets. He had learned his lessons about money the hard way, and his will was a masterpiece of careful planning. He had 7 children from 2 marriages, and he made sure each one of them was taken care of, leaving them a part of his fortune to secure their futures. He also left gifts to his 2 longtime secretaries, people who had been loyal to him for years. But there were some very pointed choices in his will as well. He had been separated from his 3rd wife, Pilar Pally, for years, and they had a legal agreement that had already settled their finances. So, she was not included in his will, and in a final act of protection, he made sure to write a specific rule that his daughter's husband, Donald LaCava, could never touch her inheritance. John had not forgotten the financial mess Donald had caused years before, and he wanted to make sure his daughter's share was safe, even if she passed away. The money would stay in the family. John Wayne's was a final statement of his character. Strong, protective, and full of care for the people who had stood by him. His smart planning and lessons learned would create a lasting financial safety net for his family for generations to come. Images of his family, the John Wayne Cancer Foundation logo, and various products sold by John Wayne Enterprises host. The money John Wayne left behind wasn't just a pile of cash. It was a foundation of a modern business empire. His children and grandchildren took what he built and ran with it, creating a company called John Wayne Enterprises. Their mission is to keep his memory and his values alive. The company carefully protects his name and image, making sure that everything associated with John Wayne stands for quality, honesty, and American values. They have developed a wide range of revenue streams. Of course, his films are still watched all over the world on TV and streaming services, bringing in a steady income. But the company has also been smart about building new businesses. They have a popular line of Wayne family estate wines, and they've partnered with companies to create grilling tools and food items that fit the rugged, outdoor lifestyle he represented. You can still buy hats, shirts, posters, and countless collectibles with his image, all of which continue to be incredibly popular with fans. But the most important part of his legacy is the John Wayne Cancer Foundation. After his death, his family started the foundation to honor his wish to help others fighting the same disease he battled. The foundation raises money for cancer research, helps patients, and educates people on the importance of early detection. Through events like film nights and tournaments, they are able to keep his name and his cause alive, bringing hope to families all over the country. John Wayne's story is a powerful one of determination, mistakes, and a deep love for his family. He went from a boy named Duke to a Hollywood icon, and in the end, he built a fortune that not only made his family filthy rich, but also created a business and a charity that continue his legacy of courage and strength today. He was a hero on the screen, but his greatest act of all was building an empire that has kept his name and his spirit alive for generations. Final shot of a classic, Smiling John Wayne. Music Swells host. If you were as amazed as I was by John Wayne's incredible journey and the empire he left behind, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with a friend who loves classic movies. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another amazing story.